One night with a stranger, unaware he was a billionaire boss in disguise. Before we begin, I kindly request that you please subscribe to my channel. Please share in the comments where you're watching from. Now, let us return to the main character. A night of unexpected honesty. Nadia Chen stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, wondering if she had lost her mind. The apartment behind her was spotless, arranged with nervous precision. Every surface gleamed, every cushion sat perfectly aligned. She had spent the last hour preparing her space for a stranger, someone she had booked through a service she never imagined using. The decision had not come lightly. For months, loneliness had been her constant companion, wrapping around her shoulders like a heavy coat she could not remove. Her career flourished. Her bank account grew. Her social calendar filled with networking events and professional dinners. Yet every night, she returned to this pristine apartment utterly alone. Nadia had tried dating apps, blind dates arranged by well-meaning friends, even speed dating events that left her exhausted. Every interaction felt performative. Men wanted the confident marketing director, the woman who commanded boardrooms and closed deals. Nobody asked about the person beneath that polished exterior. The decision tonight represented something different. She had found the service through careful research, reading reviews that emphasized discretion and respect. The booking process had been straightforward, almost clinical. She appreciated the clarity of boundaries, the explicit consent built into every step. Most importantly, she had included one specific request in her notes that morning, a single sentence that felt more important than anything else: "Please be kind." Those 3 words had taken her 20 minutes to write. She had typed and deleted them repeatedly, worried they sounded desperate or naive. Eventually, she left them there, hoping whoever arrived would understand what she truly needed. The arrival. The knock came precisely on time. Gentle but confident, Nadia took a steadying breath and opened the door. The man standing before her defied her expectations entirely. She had anticipated someone polished and rehearsed, someone wearing charm like an expensive suit. Instead, she found quiet presence. His clothing was simple but clean, a dark jacket over a plain shirt, worn shoes that suggested practicality over impression. His eyes met hers directly, without the sweeping assessment she had grown to expect from men. "Good evening," he said. His voice carried warmth without performance. "I am Dominic. I am here for our appointment." Nadia stepped aside, gesturing him in. He entered with careful awareness, not claiming space but respecting it. He removed his jacket and folded it neatly over a chair, a small gesture that spoke volumes about consideration. Building trust, they stood facing each other for a moment, 2 strangers navigating unfamiliar territory. Nadia had prepared a speech about boundaries and expectations, but the words caught in her throat. Something about his calm presence made the prepared script feel unnecessary. "Would you like to sit?" she finally asked, indicating the couch. "I would," he replied, settling where she pointed. "But first, I want to make something clear. This evening moves entirely at your pace. If you want to talk, we talk. If you change your mind about anything, that is perfectly acceptable. Your comfort matters more than any arrangement." The sincerity in his voice surprised her. Most service providers would have offered reassurance wrapped in subtle seduction. Dominic offered simple respect. Opening up, Nadia poured them both water, grateful for the familiar motion. She sat across from him, leaving deliberate space between them. He did not attempt to close it. "I need to be honest," she began. "This is not something I do. Not usually." "You do not owe me explanations," he responded. "But if sharing helps, I am listening." That phrase unlocked something inside her. She found herself talking about her divorce 3 years ago, a quiet ending that left her questioning her judgment. She spoke about building her career as armor against vulnerability, about friends who assumed her success meant she needed nothing. She described the peculiar isolation of being surrounded by people, while feeling profoundly unseen. Dominic listened without interrupting. His attention never wavered. He did not offer solutions or platitudes. He simply held space for her words, treating each one as something valuable. Mutual understanding, After she finished, silence settled between them, comfortable rather than awkward. Nadia realized she had been holding tension in her shoulders for so long she had forgotten what relaxation felt like. "May I ask why you do this work?" she ventured. Dominic considered his answer carefully. "Because sometimes people need someone who listens without agenda, and sometimes being hired for a role makes honesty easier. There are no expectations beyond what we agree upon." The answer felt true. Though Nadia sensed layers beneath it, she could not quite identify. She decided not to push. Tonight was not about excavating secrets from him. It was about creating space where both of them could exist without performance. Shifting dynamics as the evening progressed, they moved from the formal seating arrangement to the kitchen table, sharing crackers and conversation. Dominic asked thoughtful questions about her work, her interests, the book sitting half-read on her coffee table. His curiosity felt genuine rather than obligatory. Nadia found herself laughing, a real laugh that came from her chest rather than polite social requirement. When had she last felt this ease with another person? When had anyone last treated her preferences as mattering more than their own agenda? "You know," she said, watching him across the table, "I was worried I would feel embarrassed about tonight. But I do not. I feel respected." "Respect should not feel unusual," he replied quietly, "yet I understand why it does." The evening's truth, they talked until the city outside grew quieter, until the aggressive energy of evening softened into night. Nadia told him about her childhood dream of becoming a writer, a path she had abandoned for practical success. Dominic shared carefully chosen details about learning to observe people, about understanding what they needed before they articulated it themselves. Neither of them moved toward anything physical. The connection between them existed in words and attention, in the rare gift of being fully present with another human being. When Dominic finally stood to leave, hours after he had arrived, Nadia walked him to the door with unexpected reluctance. She had booked time, and time had been fulfilled. Yet something about the evening felt incomplete, not because anything was missing, but because it had offered more than she had anticipated. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you," he replied, meeting her eyes. Tonight mattered. He left without asking for her number, without suggesting they meet again. The boundaries they had established remained intact. Yet as Nadia closed the door and leaned against it, she felt something shift inside her chest. For one evening, she had been seen completely, and it had cost nothing but honest presence. She had no idea that everything she thought she knew about the night was carefully constructed fiction, or that the truth would soon shatter the fragile peace she had found. The gala 3 days passed in strange suspension. Nadia found herself replaying conversations from that evening, examining them like precious artifacts. She had not expected the encounter to linger in her mind this way. Dominic had been kind, present, exactly what she had needed. Now, he existed only as memory. A moment of connection that had already slipped into the past. Thursday evening arrived with obligations she could not avoid. The annual Innovators Gala was one of those events where attendance mattered more than enjoyment. Her company had purchased a table, and as senior marketing director, her presence was non-negotiable. She dressed carefully in a midnight blue gown that made her feel elegant rather than exposed, applied minimal makeup, and prepared herself for hours of networking small talk. The ballroom was exactly as she had anticipated. Crystal chandeliers cast flattering light over hundreds of guests in expensive clothing. Champagne circulated on silver trays. Conversations buzzed with the particular energy of people conducting business while pretending to socialize. Nadia accepted a glass of wine and positioned herself near colleagues, half listening to discussions about quarterly projections and market disruptions. Her mind wandered, already calculating how long she needed to stay before she could politely excuse herself. The announcer. Lights dimmed slightly as a woman in a sharp red suit took the stage. Her voice carried through the sound system with practiced authority. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate innovation and leadership. We have an extraordinary lineup of speakers, but I want to begin by introducing our keynote guest. He has transformed the technology sector, built a company valued at over $8 billion, and consistently pushes boundaries in artificial intelligence and sustainable development. Nadia's attention drifted. These introductions always followed the same pattern: excessive praise for someone already drowning in accolades. His leadership philosophy centers on understanding human connection in an increasingly digital world. He believes that technology should serve humanity, not replace it. Please join me in welcoming Dominic Reed, founder and CEO of Reed Technologies. The name hit Nadia like a physical blow. Her wineglass tilted dangerously in her hand. Around her, applause erupted, but she heard nothing except the rushing of blood in her ears. The screens positioned throughout the ballroom flickered to life, displaying a photograph. The same thoughtful eyes, the same calm expression, but everything else had transformed. Dominic stood in an impeccably tailored suit, confidence radiating from every line of his posture. This was not the man who had sat in her kitchen sharing crackers and conversation. This was power personified. The recognition Nadia's legs felt unstable. She set down her glass before she could drop it. Her mind raced through every moment of their evening together, recontextualizing everything she had believed. He had listened to her talk about loneliness, about struggling to build her career, about feeling invisible despite her accomplishments, all while he commanded resources beyond her imagination. He had presented himself as someone offering a service, someone on equal footing. Instead, he had been conducting what? An experiment? A game? The betrayal cut deeper than she had expected. She had been vulnerable with him, genuinely vulnerable, because she believed the power dynamics were clear and contained. Now those dynamics had inverted completely. He had watched her expose her insecurities while holding all the cards. Dominic took the stage, accepting applause with a modest smile. He began speaking about innovation and responsibility, about using privilege to create opportunities for others. His words were eloquent and probably sincere. Nadia heard none of it. His eyes scanned the crowd, and she knew the exact moment he found her. His speech faltered for half a second, barely noticeable to anyone else. But she saw recognition flash across his face, followed by something that might have been regret. The escape. Nadia turned and walked toward the exit. She moved with deliberate calm, refusing to run despite every instinct screaming at her to flee. She kept her head high, her expression neutral. Even as humiliation and anger warred inside her chest, the terrace offered escape. Cool night air hit her face as she pushed through the glass doors. The city spread out before her, thousands of lights representing thousands of lives, all of them suddenly feeling more authentic than the conversation she had shared with a man who had lied through omission. She gripped the stone railing, forcing herself to breathe slowly. She would not cry. She would not let this break her composure. She had survived a divorce, career setbacks, and years of carefully building her independence. She would survive this too. The confrontation footsteps approached from behind. She knew who it was before he spoke. Nadia. His voice sounded different now, still warm, but carrying weight she had not noticed before, authority barely contained. "You should not be here," she said, without turning around. "You have admirers waiting inside. I needed to speak with you first." She turned slowly, keeping the railing at her back. The man before her wore a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. His expression held concern, but she could not trust it. She could not trust anything about him now. "Speak then," she said coldly. "Explain why you thought it was acceptable to test me." The truth emerges. Dominic moved closer, but stopped several feet away. Respecting the distance she clearly needed, his hands remained visible, open, not. Even now, some part of her registered these details, and she hated that she still noticed his consideration. "It was not a test," he began. "Not in the way you were thinking." "Then what was it?" she demanded. "Entertainment? Research for your next business venture? Or do billionaires just enjoy watching regular people be vulnerable for fun?" The words were designed to wound, and she saw them land. "Good, I started using the service 6 months ago," he said quietly. "Not because I needed money or because I was curious. I did it because I wanted to know what it felt like when people did not want something from me. Nadia laughed harshly. Poor billionaire, too many people paying attention to him. Do you have any idea how that sounds? I know how it sounds, he replied. But that does not make it less true. Every conversation I have, every relationship, every interaction is colored by what people want. They want investment, connections, opportunities, access. Nobody just wants to know me. And I did. She asked incredulously. I hired you for a service, Dominic. That was not some pure interaction either. The core issue. He shook his head. You hired someone you believed had no power over you. You set boundaries and expected them to be respected. You shared what you felt comfortable sharing without worrying that I would use it against you or try to leverage it somehow. That honesty was real. Nadia felt tears threatening and pushed them back viciously. You do not get to decide what was real. You lied about who you were. That makes everything else a lie too. I never lied about how I felt, he said. And for the first time, emotion cracked through his controlled tone. Every word I said to you was true. I do understand loneliness. I do value honesty. I do think you deserve respect. None of that was performance. But you took away my choice, she said, and her voice finally broke. You let me be vulnerable with someone who had all the power, and I did not even know it. How am I supposed to trust that you were not just studying me, learning what made me tick so you could use it later? The admission. Dominic was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible over the city noise below. You are right. I should have told you the truth. I told myself I was protecting something valuable, but really, I was protecting myself. I was selfish, and you paid the price for that. I am sorry. The apology sounded genuine. Part of Nadia wanted to accept it, to believe that the connection they had shared meant something despite the deception. But a louder part remembered every moment she had worried about being judged, every insecurity she had voiced thinking she was safe. Your apology does not change what happened, she said. It does not give me back the control I thought I had. I know, he replied, and I am not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to know that meeting you changed something for me. That night was not an experiment. It was the first time in years I felt like a person instead of a position. The final word. Nadia looked at him fully then, seeing both the man who had listened so carefully in her kitchen and the CEO who commanded billions. They were the same person, and that made everything more complicated. I believe that you felt something real, she said finally, but what you felt does not matter as much as what you did. You made a choice that prioritized your experience over my right to informed consent. That is not kindness, Dominic. That is control. The words hung in the air between them. Undeniable and final. I understand, he said quietly. I need you to leave me alone now, she continued. I need time to process this without you trying to explain or fix it or make yourself feel better. Can you do that? He nodded immediately. Yes, whatever you need. Nadia turned back, toward the railing, dismissing him without another word. She heard his footsteps retreat, heard the terrace door close. Only then did she allow herself to lean forward, gripping the cold stone, letting the tears come silently. She had asked for one thing that night, please be kind, and he had given her kindness wrapped in deception, which was not kindness at all. The city continued glowing below, indifferent to her pain. Inside the gala, life went on. People networked and laughed and made deals. Dominic probably returned to accept more praise, to shake more hands, to be the man everyone expected. Nadia stood alone on the terrace and made herself a promise. She would not let this break her. She would not let his deception make her cynical or closed off. She would process this betrayal and emerge stronger, just as she always had. But first, she would let herself feel everything. The anger, the hurt, the humiliation, and beneath it all, the grief for something that had briefly felt real and now felt ruined beyond repair. The silent 6 weeks passed in careful routine. Nadia threw herself into work with renewed intensity, accepting every project, volunteering for every committee. Staying busy prevented thinking, and thinking remained dangerous. Her colleagues commented on her productivity. Her supervisor praised her dedication. Nobody asked if she was all right because she had perfected the art of appearing fine. She checked the news occasionally, despite promising herself she would not. Reed Technologies continued making headlines. Dominic gave interviews about ethical AI development, sustainable business practices, and corporate responsibility. Each article featured the same professional photograph, the one that showed none of the vulnerability she had witnessed in her apartment. Then something changed. A small article appeared in a business journal, easily missed among the usual corporate announcements. Reed Technologies was discontinuing its behavioral research initiatives effective immediately. The company would be implementing new ethics guidelines around data collection and consumer interaction. Anonymous sources suggested the decision came directly from Dominic Reed himself. Nadia read the article 3 times. Searching for mentions of the service he had used, nothing. The statement was carefully worded, professional, revealing nothing about personal motivations. Yet she recognized the shape of accountability in those words. He was not defending his actions. He was changing them. The unexpected gift. 2 weeks later, Nadia received an email from the community center where she had volunteered 5 years ago. The message was effusive and confusing in equal measure. A major anonymous donation had been made to fund a program she had proposed years ago and forgotten about. The initiative focused on providing resources for working professionals experiencing isolation, a support network for people who looked successful on paper but struggled with connection and mental health. She had submitted the proposal during a particularly lonely period, hoping her own pain might translate into something useful for others. The center had thanked her and explained that funding priorities had shifted elsewhere. Now someone had provided full funding for 3 years. The amount was staggering. More than that, the donor had specified that Nadia should lead the program development if she was willing. Her original proposal was attached to the email, marked with comments and suggestions that showed someone had read it carefully. At the bottom of the documentation was a single typed line without signature. This was always your idea. It deserved to exist without conditions. Nadia's hand trembled as she read those words. She recognized the philosophy behind them, the careful respect for her autonomy, the refusal to demand gratitude or acknowledgement. Dominic had not attached his name. He had not used this as an opportunity to force contact. He had simply seen something valuable she had created and given it life. She closed her laptop and sat in silence, emotions she could not name churning through her chest. The research Nadia spent the following days investigating. She spoke with the community center director, who confirmed the donation was genuinely anonymous and came with no strings attached. She reviewed the financial documentation, searching for hidden clauses or expectations. Everything was clean, transparent, and structured to ensure the program would serve its intended purpose. She also searched for other changes at Reed Technologies. The ethics overhaul was real and substantial. The company had hired external consultants to review all research practices. Several partnerships involving consumer data had been terminated. Internal policies around employee privacy had been strengthened. These were not cosmetic changes. They represented genuine restructuring that would cost the company money and flexibility. Dominic was not trying to look good. He was trying to do better. Nadia found herself reconsidering her anger. The betrayal remained real. Her hurt was valid. But something about his response spoke to character she had not expected. He had not defended himself publicly or blamed circumstances. He had taken responsibility through action rather than words. The encounter 3 months after the gala, Nadia attended a small panel discussion on community mental health. She had agreed to speak months ago, before everything happened. Now she sat on stage with other local organizers, discussing isolation in urban environments and the importance of accessible support systems. During the question period, she noticed him in the back row. Dominic sat alone, dressed casually in jeans and a simple sweater. He was not trying to hide, but he was not drawing attention either. When their eyes met, he nodded once. Acknowledgement, without presumption. Nadia's heart rate spiked, but she continued answering questions. She spoke about her upcoming program, carefully avoiding mention of the funding source. When the panel ended, attendees approached the speakers with follow-up questions and business cards. Dominic remained seated, waiting. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Nadia gathered her materials, hyper-aware of his presence across the room. She made a decision then, one she had been avoiding for months. She walked toward him. The conversation they found a quiet corner away from lingering attendees. Dominic stood as she approached, respect evident in the gesture. "Thank you for coming," Nadia said neutrally. "Thank you for excellent insights," he replied. "You spoke about connection and vulnerability in ways that made people listen." It mattered. She studied his face, searching for manipulation or performance. She found only genuine attention. The same quality that had drawn her in the first time. "I know about the donation," she said quietly. He nodded. "I hoped it would reach you. The program deserves to exist." "Why did you do it?" "Because your idea was valuable, and because I could help make it real. Not as an apology, not as a transaction. Just because it needed to happen." The honest exchange. Nadia took a breath, steadying herself for what she needed to say. "Can we talk somewhere more private?" They found a small coffee shop 2 blocks away, nearly empty in the late afternoon lull. They sat across from each other at a corner table, and suddenly Nadia was back in her apartment, facing him for the first time. Except now everything was different, and everything was the same. "I need to say something," she began, "and I need you to listen without trying to fix anything." "I am listening," he replied simply. "What you did was wrong. You violated my trust in a fundamental way, and that hurt. It still hurts. But what you did after matters to—" She paused, choosing words carefully. "You did not chase me. You did not try to buy forgiveness or justify your actions. You changed what needed to be changed, even when no one was watching. That kind of accountability is rare." Dominic's expression remained open, receiving her words without defending against them. "I am not saying I forgive you," Nadia continued. "I am not sure what forgiveness even looks like here. But I am saying, I see that you tried to do better. That counts for something." The acknowledgement. Dominic was quiet for a moment before responding. "I have spent months thinking about that night. Not because I regret meeting you, but because I regret how I met you. I told myself I was protecting something valuable, but really, I was being a coward. I wanted connection without risk, honesty without vulnerability. That is not how trust works." "No," Nadia agreed. "It is not. You asked me that night if the work ever made me feel invisible," he continued. "I said yes. But the truth is, I chose invisibility because visibility felt dangerous. I have been hiding behind roles my entire life. The CEO, the innovator, the success story. I thought stepping away from all that would let me be real. Instead, I just created another role." She listened, hearing genuine reflection rather than practiced apology. "Meeting you showed me what real honesty looks like," he said. "You showed up as yourself, vulnerabilities and all. You did not hide behind anything. That took more courage than anything I have ever done in business." The possibility. They sat together as the coffee shop filled with the late afternoon crowd. Office workers ordered complicated drinks. Students claimed tables for evening study sessions. Life continued around them, ordinary and beautiful. "I do not know what happens now," Nadia admitted. "I am not ready to trust you again. Maybe I never will be. But I am willing to try something." "What is that?" Dominic asked. "Honesty with no expectations," she said. "We could talk sometimes. Get to know each other without roles or disguises. No pressure for anything more. Just truth." He considered this carefully. "That sounds like starting over." "It is," she confirmed, "except this time we both know who we are from the beginning." Dominic smiled, then, genuine and unguarded. "I would like that very much." The beginning. They exchanged phone numbers, a simple gesture that felt monumental. As they prepared to leave, Nadia stopped him with one more question. "Why did you really come tonight? To this specific panel?" "Because you were speaking," he answered honestly. "And because I wanted to see what you would build with the opportunity." I was not disappointed. She nodded, accepting the truth of it. "Then thank you for showing up honestly this time," As they walked out into the cooling evening, Nadia felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, not yet. Not romance, not now. But possibility. The fragile, careful possibility that honesty might build something more lasting than charm ever could. They parted ways outside the coffee shop. No dramatic promises, no declarations. Just two people choosing to see each other clearly and deciding that clarity was worth the risk. Nadia walked home through streets growing dim with evening. The loneliness that had driven her to make that initial booking had transformed into something else. She was not afraid of being alone anymore. She had learned that true connection required risk and truth in equal measure. And for the first time since the gala, she felt genuinely hopeful about what might come next. Not because anything was certain, but because both of them were finally willing to be uncertain together. The city hummed around her, full of stories still waiting to be written, and she was ready to discover where honesty might lead.